Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your spring football show. That's right. It is the final week of the XFL season. A lot of playoff implications. And then, of course, we are in week 2 of the USFL season. So we are going to go game by game for each. This is kind of going to be an up to lock show because the XFL slate locks at noon and the USFL slate locks at 12:30, I believe. So, of course, in the interest of time, we will go through XFL first, so you can kind of gather the information, finalize your lines for that, and then we'll jump over to the USFL. And, of course, for the XFL, there's a lot of playoff implications. So I'm going to ask these guys about that. And, of course, I'm going to bring the guys in that are going to help us pick the winners. Of course, I've got Bruce and Bobby with me, and I'm very excited to have them this morning. Let me go to you first, Bobby. I know you're in all the different streets. How's it going? And are you ready for this double spring football slate today?
Yeah, excited to have double spring football. We got baseball at noon. We got NBA at noon. It's going to be a jam-packed morning and afternoon again.
Exactly. A lot of things are locking at the same time for you.
Yeah. You'll definitely notice me multitasking.
I was going to say, this is going to be multitasking at its finest, right?
Yeah. Lots of money to be won today.
That's right. Exactly. There's a lot of money on the table today in all different sports. Of course, if you're not a Run Pure subscriber, all sports one price, right? And you can use code Meg15, Bobby15, Bruce15, whichever you'd like. You get 15% off your first month. So check that out. Of course, with spring football, you really have to rely on news. And these guys help keep you up on the news. They do the playbooks, they do the projections, they keep you updated on everything in the Discord, and that is key to having an edge in these spring football slates, especially here in week 10 of the XFL, the final week, with some teams playing for nothing, some teams are playing for everything. We've got injuries. Bruce, you're keeping up with it all. We're leaning into everything, all your knowledge here, and we certainly appreciate you. So how are you doing this morning? Are you ready for the final week of XFL and some more USFL?
Yeah, doing great. Got a little workout in. Did a little digging on news and that kind of thing. No stats really, like advanced stats for USFL. So
right,
just relying on my eyes for those so far. But a little bit of news. The big one is Vinny Testaverde Jr. out for St. Louis. No,
okay.
Just kidding. Brian Hill is out for St. Louis. So
is he really?
That's a big one.
Okay, wow. That is a huge one because I was doing, working on going through everything, doing cores this morning, and I missed that. See, this is why you got to stay up with the Discord. Wow,
this just dropped like a minute ago, maybe.
Okay,
so
well, that's why. Okay, up to lock show may help you if you're jumping in and watching. If you're jumping in and watching, be sure to hit that like button as you come in. We really appreciate it. But wow, that is huge news. And we will get to what the implications are of that game by game. And of course, game by game, we'll talk about the playoff implications. Because again, some teams are playing for nothing. Some teams are playing for everything to get a playoff berth in the XFL playoffs. And then of course, even for the teams playing with nothing, these guys are playing for jobs, so, you still can consider teams that aren't playing for everything. But I certainly do like the 4 teams that have a lot riding on today and tomorrow. So, let's go game by game because, we do have a lock at noon and obviously news is dropping as we go. So I'll go to the first game for the XFL slate. And this one does mean something a lot for the St. Louis Battlehawks. We got Orlando Guardians at St. Louis Battlehawks. I'll kind of note which teams are in, out, what the implications are, and then you guys can expand on that. But at noon, Orlando is out of the playoffs. St. Louis needs to win. And then you guys can talk a little bit more about, there's an extra nuance that one of the tiebreakers in the XFL is, points scored or point differential and touchdowns scored and things of that nature. So, these are major factors to consider that some of these teams that have a lot to play for not only have to win, but they may have to run up the score. So I'll throw it to you first, Bruce, because I know, again, you've been doing a lot of the behind the scenes, well, especially USFL. You've been watching the games for us multiple times, which we greatly appreciate. But I'll throw it to you first. What are you thinking for this game? Do you like St. Louis stacks? And then how, with Brian Hill being out, who are you turning to and how does that impact your decision for this game?
Yeah, St. Louis has to score a ton and try and hold hold Orlando down, because it depends on their, how many points they score and how many points their opponent score as well. So, I think St. Louis probably will go hurry up and try to throw as many plays out there as possible. So, yeah, with Hill out, that kind of throws a wrench into things. I had some interest in him with him in there, but he's been kind of banged up the last few weeks. So just might have finally decided to take a break there. Mateo Durant, I think, will probably be the guy. He was out last week with a concussion, but back this week. So I think he would be the guy.
In again?
Yeah, he's in.
Okay.
And Kareem Walker, I think, would be the backup. So with Mateo Durant at 3,600, that's that kind of opens up things for you as well. If you need to jam a value guy in there with St. Louis needing to score points, I think he's a great play. Walker as well. I know he's got some goal line carries too, so I don't hate him at 3K either. Especially with some of these expensive wide receivers, especially for Seattle. If you're kind of putting some guys back to use in that Sunday game. The St. Louis wide receivers are all in play here. Aitman came through for us last week.
He sure did, yeah.
1 yard short of the bonus, which is always tilting, but he can. He's still only 4,800 this week, so
right.
That's solid. Darius Shepard also had a big game, and Hakeem Butler, despite being out there 100% of the snaps, didn't really do much. But
that stung for me big time.
Yeah. Ever since Aitman's come back, he's kind of taken a back seat. Noticed a little bit. So those three guys are really explosive, and I expect them to get some catches today. So. They're interesting. Latimer's back for Orlando, so he's in play. Eli Rogers is out for Orlando, so one of these other guys could get more playing time. I'm thinking, let's see, Eli Rogers was in the slot, so it's probably Dan Williams or Jamil. No, actually Jamil. Jamil was in the slot 98% of the time this year, so. He could get a boost here with Rodgers out. So I think he's interesting at 3,600. And as both quarterbacks are in play in this game for me. The running back last week, Darrington, went off, and I think Jermaine Martin is in. He's in.
I was going to say, because I was interested in Darrington again, and then I just saw that Jermaine Martin is in. So that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, that stinks. But I still think he's in play. They're going to be throwing the ball, a ton. So he's looked good in the passing game. So that's pretty much it for me. I love the St. Louis side of this one.
Okay. Bobby, let's throw it over to you again with the new news about Brian Hill. Do you have some interest in Durant? I originally had some interest in Darrington. Do you not as much anymore with Martin in? And are you going to load up on St. Louis? How are you handling this game?
Yeah, I mean, I love loading up on St. Louis. I mean, being able to get Durant at near min price makes it that much easier to load up on your choice of St. Louis and Seattle, who have the most to play for this week, and are two of the better offenses in the league. So I definitely think that's the path to load up on one or both of those offenses, and being able to get Durant cheap. I was already monitoring both the Smiths being questionable going into this week to get a little bit cheaper at running back, but Hill being out opens up a ton with Durant. I mean, Durant was the 31st overall pick for St. Louis too, so I mean, he's got a little bit of pedigree too, that they actually invested a little bit in him at the beginning of the year. So I mean, Durant's definitely going to be a core play for me. Love the St. Louis side. I think Hakeem Butler could definitely bounce back here. I mean, Orlando's had such a good matchup too. He still had 100% of snaps, so hopefully at his price tag and putting up a 0 last week, I mean, I still think that he could have a monster week. And I've been completely fine with playing some of these receivers that have a little bit higher ceiling and lower floor, considering I've been on Deontay Burnett all season, and that's definitely been great some weeks, and it's been terrible other weeks. So I love the idea of a McCarron double stack here with Butler or Shepard. Prefer Butler to Shepard for a little bit of ownership and upside, and then throwing in Marcel Aitman in there too, who's too cheap. And if you throw Matteo Durant in there too, I mean, usually from like a correlation standpoint, that's kind of a lot for one team, but I mean, I think that St. Louis goes over their team total today. I think they put up a ton of points on Orlando, and I'm completely fine playing 2 receivers, a running back, and AJ McCarron on the St. Louis side. So love the St. Louis side. With Eli Rogers out, I mean, Dortmund didn't. I mean, I think he fumbled 3 times last week, and he's made the Orlando offense look better at times. I mean, I think that he'll still get the crack at everything, but I mean, I think he's got a shorter leash today. And Darrington, just eye test wise, all the Orlando games that I've watched this year, he just looks good.
Yeah, I know he looks so good. Yeah,
I think it was against Seattle. It was the first game like a few weeks back, maybe it was a month ago at this point. He ripped off a couple big runs and scored a couple touchdowns. So even with Barton back, I still have a little bit of interest in Darrington. From a game script perspective, I think we think St. Louis is going to put points on the board. So, I think you're kind of hoping for him to break a couple long ones or get in the end zone. So I prefer some other running back options, but just talent wise and the role that he should have, he looks solid. And I like the Battlehawks defense too. They're expensive. They're going to put up points. And I think that Orlando has been kind of a turnover machine at times this year. So likely like the Battlehawks defense and, you can definitely go on the passing side to Dan Williams for cheap. Rambo's got some upside too. So there's options in Orlando, and then especially with Rodgers and Latimer not in the mix, there's a lot of targets opened up.
Absolutely. No, Dan Williams was another hurt for one last week. I believe he got a goose egg for us. And he had been, getting some nice target share. So, but yeah, with, obviously that opens up some targets for some of those other Orlando guys with Eli Rogers out. No, I like that. Okay, let's move on to our next game, which also today, right at 3:00, right after, we have DC at San Antonio. And again, DC does not have anything to play it for because they have everything locked up. Playoffs, home field advantage. And then San Antonio, on the other hand, has to win, has to score. So I'll kick it to you first, Bruce. Maybe elaborate on that and then who you like in this game.
Yeah, San Antonio has to win, like you said, and DC doesn't have anything at all to play for, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with their starters for this one. I think maybe De'Aaron King may get some run. They do have some good backup wide receivers that haven't seen the field a ton either, so it'll be interesting to monitor that. They did get rid of Raquel Armstead midweek, so. Running back should be Abram Smith and Puka Williams. And Puka Williams is kind of a smaller receiving back. He played at Kansas. He's really fast, but he hasn't shown much. I think he got a couple snaps last week. So, it'd be fun to see what he does in this offense. I don't have a ton of interest in DC unless, we get some kind of word that they are going to play their guys, but you just don't know. They do have some guys out in the secondary, so I do like this San Antonio passing game a little bit. I hate playing cone, but I think there's some upside here with. I think they had 3 starters out, so Landon Akers, Travis Toivonen actually got 73% of snaps last week. And I think he scored a touchdown, maybe. Yeah, possibly. So he's interesting at 3,600. There's some good value on the slate. So it does allow you to spend up a little bit. The San Antonio running back situation is going to be Patrick starting again, most likely, and with Hillman backing him up. And both played really well last week. And if DC is down a couple guys on defense, I could see both of them smashing. Patrick's going to be the most owned running back on the slate, of course. So,
but just like last week, do you feel like good chalk?
Yeah. It seems really good. So especially with DC having everything sewn up right now. So I love that play. I jammed him in my core already. So
Yeah.
He's there. Like I said, these San Antonio wide receivers are good. DC, Brandon Smith has looked good. I also think Jazz Ferguson might be in play at 3K if he's active.
Okay.
I think he played for Seattle NFL. I played him on some of these preseason slates.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big guy, and he seems to be their like 2-point conversion guy. They always throw it his way on fades and such. So I think he might be interesting if DC sits some of these guys down, and sneaky, maybe 1% owned guy. So other than that, I don't see much that I love. I love the San Antonio passing game, but these other games are more interesting. The first one and the last one, especially.
Right. And you would prioritize in the San Antonio passing game Akers first, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how about you, Bobby? Do you like the San Antonio passing game? Do you obviously think Patrick is good chalk? And do you mind the Brahmas defense? Again, everything to play for them. Who are you targeting there?
Yeah, I'm never gonna like the San Antonio passing game. We got the rock fight.
I like the rock fight. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm a little torn on DC. I mean, in the sense, San Antonio has a solid defense. They've got something to play for. The DC offense has been good at times. I mean, I know they don't have a ton of motivation. And I'm not 100% sure how they treat some of it, just because I know the teams and the players care about the playoffs, but these guys are in essence auditioning for the NFL.
Sure.
So that maybe some of those guys, especially that have been playing well, like an Abram Smith, they continue to highlight and showcase, and hoping he gets a contract after the season with how good he's looked. So. I can definitely see DC scaling some guys back. I can also see, just the reality that it's supposed to more so be like a pipeline to the NFL, and hopefully some of these guys get contracts like we've seen in the USFL and XFL in the past. There's been a few guys like a PJ Walker that got a contract with the Panthers, etc. So, I'm not fully treating it like DC is gonna treat it like an NFL game. But I'm somewhere in between that. It gives me a little bit of hesitation on that side. Plus, Seattle and St. Louis are in such good spots to a degree. Like, why risk it when there's no motivation and they're playing a slow team with a decent defense? So, I think from a GPP perspective, like, it's very obvious who you stack Te'amu with. Lucky Jackson or Chris Blair, both are pretty expensive at this point. If I were going to do it, I would probably roll the dice on Blair just with the upside that he's shown fairly recently.
Right.
I like the DC defense. I think that the San Antonio defense is solid too at only 3.7 on DraftKings. So don't mind that price tag. And then from the pass catcher side of things, I think that we're gonna have better value than like TJ Vasher, who we've looked at a couple times. Landon Akers has had solid volume, but he's got a pretty low ADOT, so don't have a ton of interest there. But yeah, I think that there's a couple.
Another preseason guy there. I remember him Rams preseason last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Rams are preseason heroes. They don't need starters, and he just load up on their wide receivers.
Right. Oh, totally. Yeah. So already getting me excited for the NFL preseason in 4 months.
Maybe our boy Akers will be back with the Rams.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. Well, there is still some showdowns, especially the ones the second game of the afternoon today and the evening tomorrow is a little bit of a bigger prize pool. Would you play like a Te'amu or Abram Smith, or are you just too worried that they could just not get their full run? I'll go to you first, Bobby, and then same question for Bruce.
I'm gonna roll the dice in showdown just because of the upside. I'm not afraid to leave a ton of salary on the table.
Right.
I think you're just even if Te'amu plays 60% of his usual workload, I just think raw points he's going to be optimal, and maybe you go with someone sneakier at captain or play defense at captain or something. I think you're going to need the raw points for someone like that to be optimal, likely though.
Right. How about you, Bruce, for Showdown? Because I don't think we have a ton of interest in Tiamu in main slate, but in Showdown, do you have any interest in him, or would you do him and King, or just King, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the upside's there definitely. It's tough to play both King and Tiamu in there, but yeah, I don't mind. I can see Abram Smith getting some run, just because they only have Puka Williams in there, and he's
right.
Like I said, he's kind of a smaller, faster back, and he's smaller than Armstead, I think. So yeah, I have more interest in Abram Smith than I do Tiamu.
Okay, sounds good. Well, let's go over to the Sunday slate of the XFL, which again has implications that we need to talk about. Before we do, if you're in here, hit that like button. We really appreciate it. And of course, if you're a Run Pure subscriber, check out the Discord. All day today and tomorrow, we will be dropping the news, just like the Brian Hill news that happened. These are very important news, because I tell you what, Draftkings does not keep you updated. You have to be updated by guys like Bruce and Bobby here. So let's talk about the games tomorrow. We have Houston Roughnecks at Arlington Renegades. Now, I know you kind of broke this down in Discord, Bruce, so I'll throw it to you first. Basically, obviously, if DC does win, then Arlington has nothing to play for. This game could be just a showcase of backups, or just truly for nothing, because again, Houston has locked up everything. They have locked up playoffs and the home field advantage on their end. However, if San Antonio wins today, then Arlington has everything to play for, has to win, has to score. So a lot of implications based on what happens in the DC San Antonio game. Did I get that right first? And then, who do you like? Nailed it. All right. And then who do you like in this game?
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it there. If DC wins, Arlington has nothing to play for. They would play next week in the playoffs too. So, in this game, I can kind of see them playing more backups just because of that. It's more of a game that doesn't matter, and then they play next week. So, if you win this week, you could make the case and say, it's tough to win 2 times against the same team in a row. You hear that sometimes,
right?
But I love Letty Brown. 4,900 for him is much too cheap, especially with Davion Smith kind of banged up. He got 58% of snaps last week, and he catches the football so much better, in my opinion. So I think he's in play. If somehow San Antonio wins, I think Luis Perez is probably one of the better quarterback plays on the slate.
And low owned, I'm sure, too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I played a couple of GPP lineups with Perez in there at quarterback, paired up with like Canella and some Tyler Vaughns. You can even just play one receiver and Letty Brown with him. I think that's kind of a good little play there. I kind of have some interest in Bryson Aileen, just because he's 4,200. Game doesn't matter much to Houston.
Right.
Dejon Lee is out. So, they brought in Jeremy Cox as well. He got some snaps last week. But I think Aileen probably get most of the snaps at running back for Houston. And you can catch the football. He made a nice little flip into the end zone last week and scored a touchdown. So I think he's good. And like I said, Sal Cannella, tight end, solid. I think Arlington's probably the best defensive play on the slate this week, just because Houston definitely doesn't have anything to play for. Will definitely almost be the most owned defense there for this slate.
They're, I believe, well, no, they're not the highest price. That's the Battlehawks. But yeah, no, that makes sense why they'd be the highest owned. So do you feel like Houston is going to be running a lot of backups no matter what happens then, just to kind of save up for the playoffs?
Yeah, I think so. Just because they're more than likely going to play Arlington next week. That's in my mind, that's where they go.
And then if DC wins and it's locked up that Arlington would be playing, would that pull you off of all the Arlington players, or would you still play like a Letty Brown?
I probably still play Lady Brown because they should only have two active running backs. We'll have to wait for inactives tomorrow, but if Smith is out or something, Brown's gonna play for sure.
Okay, despite the situation. Okay, you got to really have these like if then statements in your head, ready to go, ready to pivot. And then of course pay attention to actives and inactives, which are obviously very important to pay attention to, that we just found out again with the Brian Hill news. So Bobby, I'll throw it to you for this game. Again, a lot of if then situations, but what is your interest level in this game and who are you interested in this game?
I mean, mainly the defenses here. If Bandy is active, which I think he's still questionable, but it seems like he's been trending in the wrong direction. I mean, if there's gonna be a lot of other values, you probably don't need to roll the dice there. He was someone that I originally looked at early in the week as a value play. Houston doesn't have anything to play for likely, or they don't. But I mean, they just have looked bad the last couple weeks since Silver came back. So the other side of the coin, as far as wanting to rest guys and stuff too. I mean, maybe if we get specific news that they're resting guys or not going to play the full half and stuff, I mean, we're probably not going to get a ton of intel on that kind of stuff, considering it's the XFL. But they should be low owned. And if you want to have a contrarian take, I think the case that I could make for that is, they've just looked out of sync. They've looked bad. Maybe they, do give it a full go to, try and get some momentum heading into the playoffs. So I don't think that's a crazy way to go. I mean, again, like I said, my route's pretty clear that I want to load up on the Seattle and St. Louis offenses and mix pieces in here and there. But if you want to go that route, I don't think that it's crazy. Houston's got a good defense too. And so, I mean, we saw Perez throw 2 pick sixes in week 1. I think that there's turnover upside. So I like the Houston defense. I like the price tag that it's at. There's so many other good pass catchers and offenses. It's hard to have a ton of interest in either passing attack. But if Smith's out, I think Letty Brown becomes one of the best plays on the entire slate. And I love him in that instance. And the only other real interest there would be Sal Cannella, who, with the quarterback upgrade, we said it last week. I was a week early on that one, and he should continue to be involved at only 6.4K. So I think the volume's there. I think that he's solid. But outside of that, I'm mainly just looking at defenses and Letty Brown if Smith's inactive.
Right. Okay. Well, then let's get to kind of the big game. The other big game for playoff implications, which is Vegas at Seattle. And again, Vegas is out of it. Seattle needs to win. Seattle needs to win. Seattle needs to score. So especially, I guess, let me think this through. I mean, we assume that St. Louis is going to win. But if they were to lose, then just to know all implications, this game would not then mean anything for Seattle. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, but we obviously are assuming that St. Louis wins with everything to play for and just the better team. So we assume St. Louis wins. Then at this point, then Seattle has everything to play for, has to win, has to score for the tiebreakers, and therefore we like Seattle, of course. So Bruce, I'll go to you first. With all that said, who are you targeting? Seattle has a much bigger target tree. Though I just asked you in Discord, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that Green might be out. So, there is definitely some moving parts in the receiver core for Seattle. So with that said, how are you handling the receiver core for Seattle, or just who are you targeting overall in this game?
Yeah, and it looks like Damian Willis is questionable as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if both of those guys miss, it could be a lot thinner than we usually get. So
right.
It all depends on how many points St. Louis scores, but if they put up a big number, this game could get out of hand on both sides. I really like the quarterback Danucci here. He's a little bit more expensive than McCarron, I don't see a way he doesn't score over 25 points or so. I like him a lot. Lindsey last week disappointed, only got 27% snaps. I don't know if he got banged up, not on the injury report. So I'm not sure what happened there. I know the tight end was taking some carries at the end of the game since Bradwell was out. That's something to watch.
I think he might have just been ineffective. I mean, I think he was
Yeah.
averaging like under 2 yards a carry, which I mean, we've seen a lot of people. It's weird, not to interrupt you, but like Seattle, it looked like we want to play their running back since they had the first 100-yard rusher in the league early in the season.
Right.
And then now it seems like everyone's averaging like, less than 2 yards a carry or like 2.5 yards a carry. So it's just kind of crazy how it's changed already.
Yeah, I agree. That's when they had Ellison in there, running for all those yards, it was good to see. But yeah, they are a passing offense from the jump. So I love Pearson here. I keep ending up on him with all the salary available. If I throw like Durant in there, a cheaper wide receiver. I keep ending up with him there. He looked a lot better last week.
Yeah.
And, he broke a couple tackles on a long touchdown. That was good to see. Blake Jackson is just steady, 100% of snaps almost every week. If Willis misses, I think that benefits Josh Gordon a ton as well. And, he should be really low owned, 5 to 10% or so. So he's interesting. VC scored a touchdown last week. He continues to be boom or bust, either one catch or two catches, no touchdowns, or just maybe a couple catches and a touchdown. You just never know what you're going to get with him. On the Vegas side, I think Geronimo Allison has looked good last couple weeks, and he got 94% of snaps last week, scored a touchdown, and I just think he's kind of rounding into form. Supposedly, it looks like Martavis Bryant is out for Vegas, and I think that benefits Sweeting at 4,600. Got 40% of snaps last week. I think he took Bryant's spot once he left. So, that's good. Another good cheap option if you want to run back. That's inexpensive. And that's pretty much it for me. I love the passing game for Seattle as always, and I don't hate the Vegas run back either.
Well, let me ask you this, Bruce, just because I've been struggling with this myself with Seattle's passing game. I guess assuming Green is out, is it trending towards out, or we really don't know? We're just not going to know.
I think it showed questionable on the practice report. That
was the last thing I saw. So
So
we're not going to know till tomorrow. Let's say Green is out. Rank Seattle's pass catchers for me, and then I'll ask Bobby the same question.
Yeah, I'd probably go Pearson, Jackson, Gordon, then VZ. And if Willis is out, I'd maybe move Gordon above Jackson, but they're kind of interchangeable. Gordon has more upside. Jackson's more of the possession type receiver.
Right. Okay, Bobby, how about you in this game? Do you kind of, for the Seattle pass catchers, you said like all of us have a lot of interest in Seattle's side, assuming that St. Louis needs to win and then Seattle needs to win this game. You have a lot of interest in Seattle. Would you agree with kind of Bruce's rankings of how you're targeting the receivers?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely Pearson 1, Jackson 2, and then 3 kind of depends on whether Green's in. If Green's in, I'd rank him 3, just partially at least because of his price tag and his involvement in the red zone. And I agree with Bruce that Josh Gordon should be low owned, and there should be some upside there. And then I think that Jordan VC, and I mean, point per dollar, I'd say that Gordon and VC are pretty close for me. It's just we don't need a ton of salary savings this week, but you could try and play like VC and Pearson as your 2 Seattle wide receivers, and then make a build that you've got like Butler and Pearson, which is pretty rare to be able to easily fit 2 10K plus wide receivers in there. So you can make some fun builds like that. I mean, that's the type of thing that I'm looking at quite a bit from just a general build construction standpoint, is looking at builds with Danucci or McCarron, and playing 2 of the expensive pass catchers. And you've got like 8-man and some other cheaper receivers that are options on the Seattle side, plus all these cheap running backs. So I think there's just a ton of target and TD upside with that kind of build.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So anybody else that kind of covers the Seattle passing game, which we do love so much. And I know you obviously, I'm sure, want a lot of, exposure to Danucci. Anybody else that you're targeting or have interest in this game?
I mean, McClendon's been solid. He's shown some rushing upside. And you got Badette back, which Badette should be really low owned, and we've seen him have a pretty big role at times. I believe I saw that he was active this week. So, I don't think anyone's going to play him, and we've seen him have multiple TD upside, has decent quarterback play here. So I think that, you could look at playing McClendon and like a couple Seattle pass catchers and essentially doing like a skinny stack with McClendon and a double Seattle bring back type of build. I think that's kind of a contrarian way to get access to this game. I also really like John Lovett on the Vegas side. It seems like Rod Smith isn't going to be active this week, and we've seen Lovett get some TD equity. We've seen him be involved in the pass game at 5-2. So I think that he's super interesting. And then we already got some cheap running back options, but if Rod Smith's out, we saw with some injuries that Brian Burke got involved a little bit, and he's been priced at running back. So probably Burt's more of a name to keep in mind for the Sunday only slate or for showdown. But if Rod Smith's active, there's gonna be some interest in the cheaper Vegas running backs. And
oh, he might have frozen. While he's coming back, Bruce, I'll go to you first. We got. Oh, are you? I can hear you. Yes, you're good now. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, maybe I'll move my mic a little bit. So, a little bit of interest in Philip Lindsay, but mainly Seattle pass game for me.
Okay, perfect. Well, we got about 20 minutes until the XFL lock. So why don't we give everybody your all's plays of the slate, and then we can shift over to USFL, which then will give us, a little less than an hour until that lock. So I'll go to you first again, Bruce. Who is your play of the XFL slate, final week of the regular season?
Man, I think I'm going back to my guy Aitman.
Love
treated me so well last week. I think he does it again.
Okay. Love it. We were all on that last week and that was good. It was just Butler was a little hurtful, but he was awesome last week and I'm on it again this week too. Bobby, who is your play of the final week of the XFL season here? Play the slate.
I'm going upside. I'm going with Akeem Butler. I think he's going to score 2 touchdowns today. Monster game from Butler, bounces back.
I like it. Love it. I love like coming out of the gates with the St. Louis stack. So I think you could do like a McCarron and double stack that. And then, obviously still get your exposure to Seattle with all the value we have. So I'm going to say my play of the slate is one of the value running backs, whether you want to go Durant or Letty Brown. That has to be the kind of what unlocks, being able to load up, kind of these Seattle, St. Louis stacks. So I like that for my kind of play of the slate to unlock some things there. All right, well, let's just shift on over to USFL. If you are in the chat and have any questions, we can answer those, of course, before lock. So throw them in the chat if you do. Of course, hit that like button, and then we will shift over to USFL, which locks in about 50 minutes at 12:30. So at 12:30, we have the Houston Gamblers at New Orleans Breakers. And Bruce, again, you've said in Discord, you watch the games 2 times. So you are doing the dirty work for us to help us out because, we are lacking exposure to, like you said, advanced stats and stuff for USFL. So you getting your eyes on it 2 times is helping really, parse through who we should be focusing on and target share and all these important things. And of course, again, if you're a Run Pure subscriber, check out both the XFL, USFL playbook. We have both the XFL and USFL cores. And of course, check us out in Discord. So anyways, Bruce, watching the games twice, who are you liking in this game?
So New Orleans did what I thought they would do last week, which was throw the football around a ton. They played one of the better defenses in the league. The first half they looked pretty horrible, and after halftime they came out, kind of regrouped, and Bethel Thompson threw for 300 yards, and looked like I thought he would. So I like him again this week. Houston looked terrible last week, and I just think New Orleans takes it to them.
Yep.
New Orleans is probably the best defensive play this week, in my opinion. Houston just could get nothing going. Anthony Jones is so involved in the passing game. I think he had 5 targets last week, and I think he scores well. You can play the quarterback and the running back together. I hate doing that in college, but with only 4 games,
right.
I like getting both the quarterback and the running back together, especially one that can.
Yeah, it's a different dynamic with 4 games. Sure, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. So I like them. The New Orleans passing game is so thin. There's only a couple of guys that actually played last week. Dixon and Adams, they're priced up, but they were on the field the whole game. Eli Stove also is out there quite a bit. He's $3K. They do have D. Anderson active this week, and they had Lee Morris. I think he had 3 targets last week. So it's very thin at the wide receiver position. Tight end Surratt dropped a touchdown last week, and oh man!
But he was a great call by you. You talked about it last week. You got us, everybody in the Run Pure, Discord was, I think, on Surratt, based on your call, and we were all rooting it on, and it was a great call. It was a great play still.
Yeah, oh man, that tilted me so bad. I had to take a walk around the house. I just turned off the monitor.
Take a lap.
Yeah, had to get out for a minute. But yeah, he's still a great play this week. He was a little banged up midweek. I think had a knee issue. So that's a little concerning, but he's 4,200 still, not priced up at all. So he's still good. The Houston side, I don't really want to play any of these wide receivers. I guess Teo Redding's okay, former Lion, and he had a couple of swims through a couple different teams. Josh Peterson is interesting for Houston, the tight end. That's Doug Peterson's son. Played college at Louisiana Monroe. He caught a lot of passes there. Was their leading receiver last week with like 2 catches for 28 yards or something.
Ooh.
Something dumb. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So yeah, I don't think he's a horrible play if you need just like a punt down there in the 3K range. But yeah, other than that, love New Orleans. Don't really love Houston. Love New Orleans defense.
Okay. All right. I like it. Let's go over to you, Bobby. In this first game for USFL, do you like the New Orleans offense? I know I like the passing offense. I have kind of them in my core. Who are you targeting in this game?
Yeah, I'm gonna run it back with Vikings legend Bethel Thompson at quarterback, and
I like it. Me too.
And run out a NOLA double stack. So I'm on the same page as you guys, just kind of deciding right now between either going Adams or Dixon at wide receiver as the second piece of the double, and definitely going back to Bruce's guy Surratt.
Love it. Okay, well then let's move over to the second game, which is 7 p.m. tonight. We have the Memphis Showboats at the Birmingham Stallions. Bruce, again, go to you first. You've got the eyes on these games. I think the Stallions is where we had the quarterback injury, correct? Is that
That's
and
correct.
Then so talk about that, and then I know there was some other like depth chart stuff that I noticed from Birmingham last week. So talk a little bit about that, and then of course who you like in this matchup.
Yeah, it looks like Alex Magoo will start for Birmingham. Jalen Morton is going to be the backup with Jamar Smith going down for the year. So I like him a lot. He runs a little bit. I think he scored a longer touchdown on the ground last week. And Memphis defense looked pretty good last week. They have a good defensive line. So it is a little sketchy, but yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind playing Magoo there. He won't be super owned. I think around 15% or so. Actually, no, sorry, around 34%. He's going to be owned. So I don't mind him. He's kind of the cheap QB option that you'd go to this week. So with everybody else priced up that you'd want to play. With Birmingham, their running back situation, Bo Scarborough is out this week, so I think he got hurt early on last week, didn't play much. So CJ Marable will start. He played at Coastal Carolina. He caught a lot of balls there and played last year for Birmingham as well. Started off the year as the starter for them, and he's a solid play. Alex Collins again is a great play. I think he's just too good for this league. Birmingham does have a solid defense, but I just think his talent will shine through. Should get some passes his way as well. I think he had 5 or 6 targets last week, so he's one of the better running back plays on the slate.
I like it.
Yeah, when looking at Birmingham the passing game, it's kind of spread out. It's kind of like Houston's in the XFL, where they just have quite a few guys, and you don't know who it's going to. Derek Dillon was one of my guys last week for Memphis, and he got injured, so he's out this week. Should open up some volume there. I don't really want to play any of these Birmingham wide receivers. I think they're okay in tournaments, but I'm more than okay. Just going to the tight ends, where they have a couple of NFL guys in Sternberger and Thaddeus Moss, who's Randy Moss's kid. So
right,
both of those guys are good. I think I'd rather play them over the receivers. And
Sternberger did great last week.
Yeah,
I remember he helped me. Yeah, helped me cash in a showdown because he was super low owned in showdown. Obviously.
Yep. These Memphis wide receivers, Ryan McDaniel played really well last week. He's still only 3,900. Caught a long touchdown near the goal line and fell in. So I think he's still a good play. John Franklin III is back for Memphis, and with Dillon out, I think he kind of takes that volume, but he's priced up, so it's really only a tournament play for me. And I guess you could take a chance on Osiris Mitchell, who played for Birmingham last year. Was kind of their 1 or 2 wide receiver there, and got traded to Memphis in the offseason, I believe. He's only 3,400, so maybe some payback there for him if you like the narrative.
All right. Well, with this second game, Bobby, with everything Bruce said, and with everything you saw last week, who are you targeting in this second game?
I mean, I'm basically looking at Alex Collins. I mean, I played Alex Collins on my main team and was able to cash with him. Unfortunately, Bo Scarborough got hurt too. Was my play of the week last week. So I'm mostly just going to look at Alex Collins and look at the tight ends. Obviously, when you got NFL level talent guys that are playing in this league like Moss and Sternberg, you got to consider them just based on that and being involved in the offenses. So tight ends and Alex Collins, and basically moving on from this one.
Moving on. Okay, I like it. Well, we got about 40 minutes until the USFL lock. Again, 10 minutes till XFL lock. So if there are any last minute questions, feel free to drop them in and let us know. 40 minutes until the USFL lock. So let's shift over to the Sunday slate. 1 o'clock, we have New Jersey Generals at Pittsburgh Maulers. I do believe the Pittsburgh starting running back is out. So I wanted to ask Bruce about that. And then any other depth chart moves, of course, please, let us know. And then, of course, Bruce, who do you like in this game?
Yeah, so some major injury issues in this game. I don't love Pittsburgh's offense just because their quarterback situation is so bad. I thought Morgan looked horrible last week. They brought in Troy Williams, who looked even worse. So I don't know. I just think that offense is bad. New Jersey has a decent defense. They did let Birmingham score 30 points on them, but looking at last year, they were just a really good defense. They didn't lose much from that defense last year either. So I think New Jersey wins this game. With Groshek out for Pittsburgh, I think Dwayne Gary is one of the better value plays on the slate. $3K for him. If you need a cheap running back to jam in there, try and get the studs in there. I think he's a good play. Darius Victor, he's 10-3, which it's hard to pay up for him at that price. Pittsburgh has one of the better defensive lines, in my opinion. So I'm just reserving him for tournaments. If you have the money and you want to spend up for a running back who has high upside, he's that guy. I don't love it. Their quarterback also, both their quarterbacks run the ball near the goal line as well. So
right.
The quarterback situation for New Jersey it's tough to play either one of those just because they split time. Johnson and Prukop. I thought Prukop looked better last week. I think he had over 80% completion percentage. So I think he's a good play if you want to play him in tournaments there, just because he has rushing upside too. Now the wide receiver situation for Pittsburgh, Trey Walker is out. He got 7 targets last week, while Bailey Gaither also got 7. So I think Gaither would get a big bump there as well. And I just hate playing these Pittsburgh wide receivers with these terrible quarterbacks.
Stay at the offense, not great.
It's rough. But yeah, I think Gaither's still a good play. He could see 7 to 10 targets this game. If the quarterback play is a little bit better, I think he could get there. But it's still scary. His ownership's still going to be high just because of Walker's absence. The New Jersey wide receivers, they are missing a couple of guys as well. Pearson L got injured last week, and I think Randy Satterfield is out as well. So it should be Alonzo Moore. Eccles Looper, I think, had 6 targets last week, or seven targets. I think both of those guys are in play. I like Eccles Looper at 5,400 a lot, and I think he's one of the better kind of mid-range wide receivers on the slate. And I don't think there's anything at tight end. Let me just look here. Braden Bowman also got 7 targets last week, and 3,300 is too cheap for him. I like him a lot. I do like Pittsburgh's defense if you're going to play a cheap.
Yeah, I noticed that in the playbook. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they're solid, and they should be lower owned, especially if people didn't watch the games last week. They'll just that Bethel Thompson threw for 300 yards. They won't see how much pressure they put on them. They were in the backfield quite a bit.
Let me ask you specifically about. Let's see. I need to go to Madre London from Pittsburgh. Would he be kind of RB1 now with Groshek out?
Yeah, I think so. He got most of the snaps last week, and then Gary kind of closed out the game. So it's possible they kind of swap those roles, but I think mostly it'll be close to a share. If not.
Okay. Yeah, because I had London in the core just with Groshek out in my core. Excuse me. I mean, obviously, I still have a lot of time to change it, but I'm trying, to just needed some value, and I do lean to more of the running backs in USFL for kind of that floor ceiling a little bit. What's your take on that? Are you playing any London?
No, I don't really love London.
Okay.
But, he should at least split with Gary.
Okay.
So, but. Yeah, I kind of.
That's why we do these shows, so we could talk it through here, and it might make a change to my core. But no, I just was kind of making the pivot off Groshek being out. But again, I didn't have the eyes on the game to see that the kind of the value running back got that late run, and that is a concern. So good. Well, I'm glad I asked you. And now let me go over to Bobby and ask you who you like in this game between New Jersey and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, like Bruce said, the Maulers being a cheap defense, I'm mainly looking at them in New Orleans on the defensive side of things, and just kind of deciding on, do I spend up on New Orleans and upgrade my last guy in, or do I punt with Pittsburgh? So that'll be the primary interest there, is on the Pittsburgh defense side of things. So I don't really have anything else to add to what Bruce said. I am looking at as a potential kind of mid-range guy, and Eccles, Looper. Like Bruce mentioned, with how good Pittsburgh's defensive line is, if they got to make a bunch of quick passes, if he can eat up, get 5 to 8 catches and 50 to 70 yards, and has a chance at maybe getting in the box one time, like he could put up a nice score there as a nice mid-range option. So that's my primary interest. Don't really have anything else to add.
Okay, I will add that I just made a pivot. You could pivot directly from London to Devin Gray, who I know Bruce has projected as one of the top receivers and part of that Philly offense. So, I'll update the core, but by the time we get off the show, it'll be like 15 minutes before lock. All so right. I did update my core from London to Gray. So glad we talked it through. That's why we do this show. Get this last minute news, talk through all these depth charts, and especially depth charts in spring football is so important. So let's go over to our last game here. We've got the Sunday night hammer, 7:00 Michigan Panthers at Philadelphia Stars. I just talked about a Philadelphia obviously receiver, but Bruce, talk us through what you saw after watching the games twice with these two teams, and then of course who you like. I know you like Cookus, the quarterback from Philly, but who else do you like in this game?
Yeah, I think this could be one of the better games of the week, especially if Michigan plays like they did last week. And Josh Love looked great, 3 touchdown passes, and didn't expect that from him at all. He didn't look like that last year. He's going to be lower owned. I see like 2% ownership on him some places. So I kind of like stacking this game up a little bit, just because Philly last year had the worst defense in the league. They did add some guys, but maybe that first week didn't tell the whole story. So
right,
it's possible that this game kind of goes off a little bit. Most people will be on the Philly pieces here. The quarterback Cookus, of course. Colburn and Dexter Williams did split last week, for the most part. I don't really want to play Colburn at 9,600, but he had some games last year where he split a little bit and still went off. So he's interesting in tournaments still. I prefer Dexter Williams if I'm going to play anybody, just because he's cheaper and you can do a whole lot more there. The Michigan running backs kind of split too. Corbin is much more active in the passing game, so if they're behind, could see more of him. Stevie Scott looked good last week too. So kind of the same situation at running back on both sides of this one. Wide receiver, the guy you just mentioned, Devin Gray. I think he's probably one of the better plays on the slate. He stayed on the field almost the whole game last week. And same with Corey Coleman. I think both of those guys have both those guys in my core. I think they're 2 of the better plays on the slate. With Roland out for Philly, I think those 2 guys are just on the field most of the game here.
How did Coleman do last week?
I think he had, let's see.
Because with the NFL draft coming out, what didn't we talk about last week? Wasn't he a first round pick, or was he a little later?
Yeah, I think he was.
For the Browns?
Maybe a first rounder. He did really well. I thought he looked great. Maybe 6 catches or so.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly, but somewhere around there. He did well, and he was cheaper. He was a lot cheaper than he is this week.
Right.
He's still in play for me. I just think he's a playmaker. I think Sewell is interesting in tournaments. I put in the playbook. He was coming back from an injury last week, so didn't play a ton. Overton played over him, and Overton's still cheap. So I think both of those guys are in play. They should see the field a good amount. So I don't mind either of those 2. Joe Walker for Michigan and Ishmael Hyman, both of those guys are solid. They kind of picked up the slack with Lance Lenoir leaving, and I think they're good plays. And then Trey Quinn scored a touchdown last week. I mentioned him. He was 3K last week, and scored that touchdown.
Yeah, so nice call. I love it.
I think he's a great play again. And it looks like Ryan Izzo is active for Philly at tight end, and they had Bug Howard last year at tight end, and he was one of their go-to guys. So I think maybe Izzo could be a good play this week at 3K.
Okay, I like it. Well, let's wrap it up and get Bobby's thoughts on this last USFL slate. Then, of course, get our plays of the slate for the USFL. Bobby, who are you targeting in this game? I know the Philly offense was good to people last week. Are you going back to the Philly offense, or who are you targeting specifically in this game?
Yeah, I was having on New Orleans in week 1, and so I want to get a little bit of exposure to the Philly side.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably where we want to target for the most part on the offensive side of things is New Orleans and Philly being two of the better spots this week.
Right.
So I've got Gray in my core as well, especially based on Bruce's projection, his price tag.
Mm-hmm.
He looks awesome. Coleman's definitely in play too for the Philly side of things. And then I know in week 1 that Reggie Corbin was pretty high owned, and I know he didn't have like a monster game or anything like that. So I wonder if we get him at a little bit of a discounted ownership. So I like Reggie Corbin there, even though Scott's mixing in as well at a little bit more expensive price tag. So mainly looking at the Philly pass catchers and in Corbin. You can definitely go to Cookus, but I prefer going to Bethel Thompson for cheaper and going with the NOLA double stack. But if you want to go with the Philly stack, I know that that was pretty popular last week and treated people fairly well. So certainly don't mind that as well.
Absolutely. Well, the XFL slate has just locked. The USFL slate locks in a little less than a half hour. So let's get your guys' USFL plays of the slate. Bruce, I'll go to you first. Who is your play of the slate this week?
Yeah, I love Corey Coleman today. I think
I
think he smashes. A lot of people will just play Devin Gray with Cookus, and I love Coleman. I stacked him.
Okay, perfect. Bobby, who is your USFL play of the slate this week?
I mean, he treated us well in week 1. I think at 4.2K, that Sage Sherratt's going to have another huge game for us. So he's definitely going to be my main team and my New Orleans stack already in my core on the site.
Okay, well, then I'll complete the New Orleans stack and I'll go the New Orleans quarterback, which I believe, yes, is the first game, and Bethel Thompson that you can stack up with Surratt. So that is my play of the slate. I liked him last week. I like him this week. And I really like that. Before we get out of here, I did want to take a quick look at ownership. Obviously only, one game has locked, but McCarron's coming in at 41% owned, Aitman 65% owned. Trying to find some of the other stuff.
Durant 5%.
Really? Yeah. Well, it's had the out tag,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it had the out tag. That's wonderful. Yeah, I was just looking for that in one of my other lineups. Looks Shepard 34, Darrington 30. But wow, what did you say Durant's ownership was?
5%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that is amazing. All right, well, it's kind of fun to look at when you're doing an Up to Lock show and then be like, okay, we've been talking about this. Now let's take a peek behind the curtain and see what the ownership actually was. So anyways, guys, well, this has been fun. Again, XFL is locked. USFL is locking in 25 minutes. If you have any questions for us, again, let us know in the Discord. Again, check out the cores on the site. We'll have Sunday cores up tomorrow. Remember, there's a Sunday slate tomorrow for both XFL and USFL. We'll have cores for that as well. So anyways, thank you guys so much for joining us. Good luck in your contests this weekend. And for Bobby, for Bruce, I'm Meg, and we'll see you next time.